Today I am looking at a little game called The Wildfires by Victor Debone, or Victor Debone, sorry if I got your name wrong. And Victor said this is his sort of first finished project, and he's sort of seeking feedback because he's been encouraged to make a bigger version of it to sell on Steam. It's currently a game that you can play on itch, and just kind of looking for some feedback to see what other people think about it. One of my first instincts actually when I go on this itch page is that this is what I want to see on an itch page. There's evidence that this person has already had their gameplay tested, that is kind of gathering and taking feedback, which, as I go on and on about on this channel, is all part of the iterative process that is game design. It's not just making something in your head, it's making it and testing it with the real human beings that are representative of the people who are eventually going to hopefully give you money to play your game. So one of the things I would say first off the bat is I don't really understand what this menu is asking me to do straight away. It's giving me options for islands, continent and coast, and it looks like I can use a different vehicle in each of these contexts. When you throw people straight into a menu like this and you give them lots of choices, you're sort of creating a bit of a gamble, because as far as I can tell, looking down here, I have 9 choices of 3 contexts and 3 vehicles to use in each context, and I don't know which of these is going to give me the most fun experience as a new player. So I can just click on one randomly, but then you're really gambling with which is going to be better. I'm going to go with coast though, because I live on the coast, and I'm going to be a helicopter. It says it's a sky crane, but I don't know the difference. I'm going to be dipping my plane in the water using the space bar, and then dropping water by selecting 1 and pressing space. Right. Drop retardant spray by selecting 2 and space. Okay, so the retardant spray is to stop the fire spreading, and the water is to put out the fire that is there. Extinguish a fire and other actions will recharge your retardant tank. Retardants will hold back the fire for a short time. You will need full tank charges to drop it. Use it wisely. When fire comes close, locations will start evacuation. You only have to protect them until they evacuate. Okay. And I think it's reasonably safe to say that that tutorial has too much information in one go. One of the reasons why larger commercial games tutorialize the way they do is that you are only ever giving people information at the point at which it's useful. So you don't say, this is how you pick up water, this is how you drop water, unless the player is getting a chance to do that, because you're asking them to hold that in their head and remember it, and then telling them another thing and another thing and another thing, and it's like I haven't done anything physically with my keyboard to help me solidify that knowledge in my head. And that's why we do paced tutorials, where you learn a thing, you do it, you move on, you learn another thing, you do it, you combine 2 things you learn, you do it. And that's obviously something that's not very exciting, but it is the sort of thing that Victor and team will have to think of and do if they want to do a larger commercial release of this, because it will just confuse people otherwise. But to be fair, it didn't look like there were loads of rules to this game, loads of things to remember, but the way that they were presented was a little bit overwhelming there. So I use space to fill up my water. Oh, I'm going to go and do a fire, put out a fire. The fire sort of is pushed away slightly by the water, so I'm going to put some retardant down as well. Whoops. Just flooded that area. Strangely hypnotic. But you can see when I get more retardant, that little red icon is showing up to tell me that I've got more. I kind of want to try and clear at least one of these areas of fire so I can then focus a bit more, because at the moment I'm sort of spreading around a bit. It feels a little bit like there's an elephant in the room with the timing of this video, because as I'm recording it, half of America is on fire, and I'm covering a game about fires and putting them out, which feels a bit strange. But then I thought about that, and then I thought about how many games are about. So I don't know. It feels a bit uncomfortable, but if you're able to donate to some sort of fundraiser to help people who have been impacted by the fires over in LA, then obviously do that if you can and you want to. Thanks. And also, when it comes to wars, if you've been considering starting one recently, if you could not do that, that would be fantastic. Myself and the rest of the community would really appreciate it if you didn't do any more wars. No wars, no fires. I just want it to be perfectly clear that Joe Baxter Webb, the Indie Game Clinic YouTube channel, do not support wars or fires unless they're small fires contained for the purposes of like cooking food, not big fires that burn people's houses down. Just wanted to make that really clear. Someone had to be brave and take a stand. I think this is a very beautiful game. I think it's a little bit difficult to see. I don't know if that's just the smoke that's doing that, but the overall aesthetic of the music and the art, particularly like the color palette. The color palette really has the feel of this sort of retro 1970s postcard that you might see of a tourist destination, and I think that really suits the game because it's a sort of, you know, it's not a fantastical game, it's a real life setting, but this whole place is done for because I'm not very good. But it is the sort of game where there is such a simple set of basic mechanics that you do wonder, you know, how much lifespan you can get out of this game. I think maybe the answer to that question is going to come down to how different does it feel to play this game with like different locations. Because it could be that the layout of the water and the fire and where the cities are that you're trying to protect, not that I'm doing a very good job of it. Maybe the layout of the map and where the cities are and where the water is and the vehicle you're using. These things could all make a massive difference from playthrough to playthrough. It looks like there's quite a strong wind based on the way that the smoke is moving. Oh yeah, and it looks like I've got a wind direction counter in the bottom. And that is impacting the fire, but I can't feel it impacting my helicopter. I saved a farm, I saved the west coast, I saved the park and Bywater, Newland, Fishpot, the woods, and New Ray. They're all gone now. All because of me. I knew I should have paid more attention in helicopter school. Great little game from what I've seen so far. Really like the premise. Really like the art style. I really want to see what the variety of this game is. We did the coast with a helicopter, so now I'm going to do an island with some sort of plane and see how different the game feels, because I feel like that is going to be really crucial to whether or not this feels like a multiple hour game that you can feel okay charging people for on Steam. Not all games need to be massively long things, but when you create something that has these modes or levels or different ways of playing, then whether or not those actually feel different from each other is going to be crucial. Right, where am I? Oh, look at the art on the plane when you turn. It's absolutely gorgeous. That's really nice. One of the things I find perhaps a little bit strange about the controls of this game is that I sort of press a button to change between modes, or to like go between water and the retardant. If I was thinking about how to build the gamepad version of this game, I would probably just be assigning drop water to one shoulder button and drop retardant to another one, or something like that. So it feels a little bit odd to be sort of switching between modes. Now, a really minute but possibly helpful UI design thing here is that when I'm playing this on a big screen, my water level, which is one of my primary resources, is down in that bottom corner where I can't see it very well, and it's blue on a blue background. I can just about see that meter moving around down in the corner of my eye. I think just changing the color of that interface to be sort of brown or something, so it's a warm color so that the blue stands out a lot more, that's going to make it a lot easier to see that resource going up and down. I would really like to play a version of this game that is mapped to a gamepad and see how it works, because generally it's a good thing to start doing early on, because this would be a fantastic Switch game And there's a chance that if you went straight to Switch, this would do even better than it would do on Steam. But in that case, you have to then approach it as a console game, and you have to approach it with console controls. There's just something a little bit bothersome to me about holding down the old spacebar in that way. Makes my thumb unhappy. I'm a big fan of this sort of like lo-fi MIDI Peruvian panpipe music though. It's a jam. I think in this case I'm just gonna have to give up because I've done a terrible job. Some men just want to watch the world burn. Some men cause the world to burn, but it's just because of their incompetence. If the world's burning, I'll probably watch it if there's nothing else on, but I prefer it if it didn't. I love how much care has gone into all of the little interactions in this game. It's absolutely lovely. One of the things that you wouldn't be able to see unless you're playing this yourself, but you can't really turn when you are scooping water up. You have to just scoop along in a straight line. This is a lovely game. This is a fantastic little game. I really think it's got a lot of potential. I think if you want to make it into a bigger game, it's going to need to be structured in a way that certain things like vehicles and locations are locked. Some of us have this idealistic view that we should just kind of let players have all of the toys at the beginning, but players want something to work for. They want a reason to complete level 1 so that they get level 2, or to complete level 1 within a certain sort of performance threshold and get enough stars to unlock level 2 or whatever it is. There's already a lot in this game that you can kind of divide up and lock away in those ways so that it kind of gives people that sense of progression. You know, I've talked about a few little quibbles with the UI and the visibility of things. The wind mechanic felt strange to me, but most of all my biggest problem was just the feeling of my hands sort of doing this weird stretch to hold the spacebar down while using the WASD keys. And although I could have used the directional keys as well, it didn't feel ideal.